Hey there, I'm John with Roadkill Incorporated. Sometimes in vintage computer collecting, you get lucky. Someone dies and you're allowed to show up to a warehouse and clean out their collection, or you buy dozens of dusty Apple computers out of a barn for $1,500, or a warehouse manager discovers 20 Atari STs in a crate that hasn't been opened in 30 years. Well, it's happened again. It started when I found a seller listing two Amiga 1000s. They popped up for $250 each, which is low for 1000s, and as often happens when I mull around for a couple minutes, one of the listings disappeared. So I quickly bought the other and hated myself for not being fast enough. I dug into the details and look at this. This computer has an HDMI out and a compact flash adapter. Maybe I'm naive, but I've never really been aware of many add-ons for the 1000, so I found these mods pretty intriguing. I clicked refresh again and bought this. These looked to be RAM expansion modules that go on the right side of the 1000. I hit refresh again, another modded Amiga, and this one got me really excited. It has a Parero 2. I've read about this. It's very valuable and basically an everything solution. It gives you RAM, an SD card. It lets you bypass the 1000's need to boot to a Kickstart disk. This computer also has the HDMI mod and also something sort of hidden down there called a rejuvenator. I looked up the rejuvenator and it's crazy. Apparently it's a massive 1000 expansion from way back, like 1990, created by a guy named Greg Tibbs. It does a lot, but most prominently it updates the 1000 to a newer chipset so it can use more modern operating system versions. The original 1000 has a motherboard and a large daughter card, and the rejuvenator replaces that daughter card. Seems like only so many were made, and way later someone else cloned the project and produced even more. So anyway, the seller said he had 10 more 1000s. I told him I'd buy it all, and I didn't get everything, but he did let me buy a lot more material. I couldn't help wonder about the history of this lot, though. The seller said he manages a storage facility, and the owner of all this stuff was a loaner who apparently died in the facility, which doubled as an office where he worked on computers, and the family told the manager to dump it all, but he negotiated to keep it in exchange for clearing out the place. Fortunately, the seller had enough insight to realize the stuff was worth saving. But what about the guy who died? What was he up to? Was he building these to sell? Was he repairing them for people? Was he making some expansion product himself? So many questions. All right, here it is. Pretty massive volume of material, about a dozen boxes. Can't wait to dig into this. This is the first one. This is the daughter card, the Amiga 1000 daughter card that supposedly is replaced by the rejuvenator. So we have a box of 6 of these. I have no idea if those are worth any money. Now we've got some good stuff. This is a 256K kilobyte, not megabyte, 256 kilobyte memory expansion that goes on the front of an Amiga 1000. Pretty much all 1000s have those. This is a sidecar, goes on the right side of the 1000. I assume this is just some memory. Here is a larger one. Yeah, this is SCSI, so this is a SCSI controller plus RAM that goes into that same port that I mentioned. We have multiples of these. Okay, next box. I'm just going to open all this stuff up because it would take too long to do it on camera. It's all covered in foam. Okay, wow, do we have some interesting stuff here. Well, let's start with these. These are chips, obviously. These guys, not entirely clear. Kickstart ROM relocator. Okay, so obviously a common theme here is that you pull the processor out, plug this into where the processor is, put the processor on top, and then you have some additional functionality. So I guess, oh, well, this lets you have Kickstart in ROM instead of in software for an Amiga 1000. I answered my own question. That must be what this is. And we have 2 of those, which is kind of cool. Look at this. Wow. It's like 5 or 7 boards someone had designed. This is the all-in-one adapter for NTSC Amiga 1000. So yeah, I think it's the same kind of thing. You know, pull the processor, plug it in, put the processor on top, and then you have more functionality, RAM, whatever you add to this. This is a CF card interface. Looks like IDE, so this is probably for an Amiga 600 or 1200. These blow me away. I'm guessing you pull the processor and then plug this in, and then plug the processor into this, and then you have some RAM, 2 megabytes of RAM. This here is a 68030 accelerator. This is a Spirit Inboard 1000. Look at those long pins, crazy. So yeah, you pull the processor, put the processor on top, and then you have a bunch of memory. So these are pretty common. I've seen a few of these. And possibly most interesting is this thing, an individual computer's ACA 500 Plus, very high-tech looking add-on, and it's for the Amiga 500, I assume, because it's got the bus slot, and the Amiga 1000 actually has the same bus slot as the 500. It's just upside down. So I don't know. You may be able to use this on 1000s and 500s. I'm a little unclear on the functionality here. It's got a variant of a 68,000 on it, and then apparently it gives you some RAM, and then it gives you 2 CF card slots that you presumably could boot from, and then you've got a couple adapters here to add additional stuff. We have a couple more of the 256 meg expanders. This is an interesting third-party one. You can see that it's smaller, made by Starpoint Software. Why are they making hardware? I don't know. We have 3 tank mice. I don't really like tank mice. The button is just very clunky. I prefer to use slightly more modern mice. The cool thing about these are extra valuable because they have this sort of L shape. So when you plug it into the side of an Amiga 1000, it's not sticking straight out like an Atari joystick would. So these are rare. Oh, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1010 floppy drives, but actually only the one on top has a drive in it. The other 6 are empty, which is kind of strange. I don't know why someone would gut 1010 drives, presumably to put them in 1000s, but the drives in 1000s and the 1010s they're tanks, they don't really permanently die. You can clean them and lubricate them and stuff. And here are 3 Amiga 1000 keyboards, which are basically as valuable as gold. I could take one of these with keys missing, untested, no cable, and sell it right now for like $279. Packing material is accumulating, which is always appreciated. So now I'm going to open all 6 computers at once. All right, so got everything unpacked, and this is the glamour shot, I guess. That is quite an impressive pile of Amiga 1000 there. I'm still kind of stunned at the lack of floppy drives in all of them. We do have a Gotek here, which obviously makes it hard to put the front on this computer. We have another one here that's kind of badly applied. And then, oh, my friend Chris stopped by, and look what he brought me. He brought me a bunch of 3D printed replacement front panels that go on like that. These are always missing in 1000s for some reason, and especially always missing are these. These are great. They just cover that slot because people, they would buy something to put in the slot and then they misplace this guy. All right, starting to open up these computers and see what we have. To be honest with you, I think it's going to take a second video for me to actually show these powering on and figure out repairs and all of that, because it's just a lot. There's a lot going on with these, a lot of material. Just opening them up and figuring out what I have and what the story is behind these is turning out to be pretty significant. These 4 are the parts machines I bought for $150 each. I knew they were parts machines. I knew they were missing chips and floppy drive assemblies that should go here, but that's fine. I paid $150, so I can't argue with that price. Yeah, and it's interesting. I got a couple of these working by just populating the missing chip sockets. So it doesn't seem as if these were cannibalized because they were dead. they just needed the parts, I guess. Interesting that these daughter cards seem to have different variations. Some of them have this guy. I think they came with this on it. I don't think this is like a third-party add-on. There's another one there. This one here doesn't have one, so it says Rev 3. Well, that says Rev 3 too. So, I don't know. They all say Rev 3. So yeah, not too much more to say about these guys. Potentially good machines, just need to be put together, populated with chips. Maybe I'll figure out a Gotek solution for the floppy drive. If I even bother doing that, might just sell them off as is for someone else to enjoy and upgrade. So now we have the two quote-unquote interesting machines. It seems like for whatever reason, this guy was building two different configurations out of all these Amigas and was accumulating parts so that he could do several of each configuration. And I am lucky enough that I have one of each configuration. They have some similarities. They both have RGB to HDMIs, which adapt the internal video signal to HDMI. So you've got the RGB to HDMI, you've got a Pi, and then you have the connector on the back. So this one has seemingly a different model RGB to HDMI, but it seems to function the same. You've got the Pi, and then you have the connector in the back. So that's similar. Both of these, you power them on, you get the RGB to HDMI text, and then the idea is it passes it over to the Amiga. Next, they both have Gotex. Not very well installed, but they both have Gotex, and they both have a switch on the back. And it seems, from what I can tell, that there are two modes of these machines. One is sort of Gotek mode, where the Gotek is active and you can boot to the Gotek. And the other is all the gunk inside the computer, booting from the CF card or booting from the Parero. So this one gets the RGB to HDMI splash screen, and then it goes black. Yeah, this one has an issue, probably a loose connection, probably a chip that's not seated, something like that. But yeah, look at this crazy sandwich of electronics here. So it plugs into the processor slot, and it's this blue board, which seems to be kind of like a bridge to the accelerator. The blue board seems to have, I would guess these are Kickstart ROMs, but look at this board I showed you. This is that blue board. So clearly he was planning on building many of these for the Amigas, and then he takes this guy and plugs it into the blue board. This is a fairly common accelerator, I think, that can be adapted to different Amigas. 68030 TK2, pretty cool. 50 megahertz, 68030. And then you can see on this side, he's adapted this connector to a CF card drive to boot from. So yeah, that's pretty cool. He's got the RGB to HDMI. He's got the old daughter card, but then he seems to resolve the Kickstart issue. He accelerates the computer and boots to a CF card, and then you have a Gotek when you want it. So that's pretty impressive. Moving on to this one. This one has the Rejuvenator. You can see the name there. And it says by Expert Systems. I think that means that it's an original, not the reproduced one that came later. So I think that makes this a 1990 Rejuvenator. And then over here, what is this? This is a processor, 68010, plugged into a card that is plugged into the socket. And I believe, I haven't taken it out, but I believe it's something like one of these that I showed you. So the processor goes into this, you have memory expansion there, and then that goes into the socket. And then you have the Parero, which takes care of the kickstart problem, lets you boot to 3 different kickstarts, I think, and then it lets you boot to an SD card hard drive, essentially. So the idea with this one is RGB to HDMI, and then it boots to the Parero. So I wish it was doing that. What it's actually doing is flashing a Hyperion Workbench 3.2 screen asking for a disk. And then if that comes on at all, it disappears and turns black after a second, which is really unfortunate. I've only seen this screen a few times and it just disappears. So what it's supposed to do is boot into the environment on the Parcero, you can see this screenshot from the seller. He was able to get it to boot to that. I haven't. So I don't know. Again, million pins, million chips. This will just take a much longer exploration than I can do for this video. So yeah, it's overwhelming and so much material. And that's not all. I later bought more and more and more than what I showed in these video segments. And the more I bought, the more I realized that this guy probably invested hundreds, if not thousands of hours into his Amiga 1000 project. I received another Parcero, this one a 2 Plus, which was only released a couple years ago, and that made me realize something. I'd been assuming this collection was a decades-old artifact, but the Parcero 2 Plus made it clear this guy was working on these computers until recently. It really reminds me of the artist Henry Darger. He was a person almost no one knew who worked as a janitor in Chicago for decades, and when he was sent to a nursing home, his landlord cleared out his apartment and found decades worth of bizarre and entirely original art and writing. Henry Darger is now in 100 museums and considered one of the most important outsider artists in the world. His room has been restored and is on display at a Chicago museum. It's absolutely fascinating. You should see it if you can. But like with the Amiga stash, if the landlord hadn't had the insight to know there was something valuable, it would have all been dumped and no one would have known. I've personally cleared out collections that the wife or kids of a deceased husband just wanted gone. You have to think that's probably the norm, actually. Someone's life work, life collection just gets thrown out. And all of us vintage collectors, we're all getting older, and we're all accumulating, and most of us don't have a clear goal. You know, there's this phrase, memento mori, which means remember you will die. Maybe we need to take that more seriously so everything we're doing, everything we're working on doesn't just disappear. Maybe we all need to come up with a retro will, a document that tells our family to call our closest 5 collector friends so they can deal with what's left. It's really worth thinking about because we care so much about these computers and put so much work into them, and so for it all to potentially be trashed is such a shame on so many levels. The good thing is that this Amiga 1000 lot was saved, and soon enough it will mostly go to others who will be able to improve their own collections. So that's a good thing. But in a way, it's a shame too, because as it all gets scattered into the wind, in a sense, it becomes depersonalized and detached from this guy's greater story, which will never really be known or told in a way that does it justice. But I guess that's just how things go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Okay, so I know the video is supposed to be over, but you gotta see this. This is just a plain vanilla stock Amiga, not one from the lot. Parcero 2 Plus connected, power on. You'll see the light blinking in just a second. And let's look at the screen. And boom, look at that. One small piece of hardware connected to the Amiga, and basically all of the 1000's issues are overcome. You don't have the kickstart problem anymore. You have 8 megabytes of RAM. You have a bootable drive that lets you transfer software. This is just amazing. I think this is the best Amiga upgrade that exists. One little piece of hardware, and your 1000 is totally viable. Incredible upgrade.